Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me today. I think that we can agree that someone's statements gain more importance if that someone is an important person in a society. That is, if that person has some titles attached to his name. Let's say it's a prime minister, it's an intelligence officer, is the director of a certain kind of services or department. We should agree that at least from the get-go, you would listen more to a university professor than you would listen to a person making some statements at the corner of a street. Now, with that being said, I have here an interesting article coming from the United Kingdom and via Sputnik. This is from today, the 30th of January 2023. And we have an important person who is UK Parliament's Defence Chair. That's a very important position this weasel has, who calls for direct confrontation with Russia. So the UK Parliament's Defence Chair calls for direct confrontation with Russia. Well, I don't understand what else would qualify as a direct confrontation. I mean, I kind of know, but it's kind of like, a person accused of rape is brought in front of a court, and they say, well, you grabbed a woman, forcefully made her do this and made her do that, and then you forced her to get engaged in intercourse with you against her will, and so on. So that qualifies as rape, and you would have this accused rapist saying, "Your Honor, I object to that accusation." You'd be like, "What do you mean? You grabbed her, you forced her to do that, you perform intercourse with her against her will. How do you call that?" "Well, I object. You know what? That was not a rape because I didn't get to ejaculate." Now, what do you think with this stand? So he was involved 98% in the whole process of raping a woman, but he claims because he didn't get to ejaculate for whatever reasons, he doesn't consider that rape. So I don't know, he would consider it something else. So same this guy, I think, he claims, or at least this article claims, that he says that calls for direct confrontation with Russia. I know he probably means troops, but you're already there. You're already there with everything you gave to Ukraine. I think you are not ejaculating yet, but you're there. So the United Kingdom is involved in the Ukrainian conflict and should face Russia directly. So this guy confirms that the United Kingdom is involved in the Ukrainian conflict and should face Russia directly. We should pay attention here, because in the quotation mark are just face Russia directly. The rest is just made up by, I was about to say Putin, Sputnik. So let's see his entire quote statement, right? Tobias Elwood, this is the name of the head of the UK Defence Select Committee, said on Monday. And now let's say what this guy is saying. Direct quotation according to Sputnik. "We are now at war in Europe." Okay, if you're directly involved in what's going on. "We need to move to a war footing. We are involved in that. We have mobilized our procurement processes. We are gifting equipment to Ukraine. We need to face Russia directly rather than leaving Ukraine to do all the work," end quote, he said in an interview with UK broadcaster. Now, I think there's no doubt that he means face Russia directly, means face-to-face military, participants, fighters, personnel, airplanes flown by UK's pilots, tanks operated by I'm sorry, yeah, UK, British, tank personnel, maybe infantry fighters, special operation units. I'm guessing everything that's needed for a war, because this guy says we need to face Russia directly rather than leaving Ukraine to do all the work. Okay, Elwood said the UK government must, and I'm quoting, recognize the world is changing and provide appropriate funding to the military. We're so lucky these guys in the military. It's just unprovoked war just happened, and they are going to be at the receiving end of. I'm talking about the big officers, not the people who might be losing their lives. I'm talking about the officers. They're going to stay thousands of miles or hundreds of miles away from the conflict, directing the troops and leading the armies. It used to be that the king was the first one leading the charge, when he was invaded or he was invading. But things changed. Little by little, the king, the toughest guy, because that's how they got to be the kings, not that, oh, I'm a nice person, everybody loves me. No. Initially, and for the most part of the history, the kings, the emperors, got to be over there, or the leaders of a group, of a country, of a nation got to be over there because they were the most ruthless guys. They were beating everybody else. That's how value was assigned in a group, because that's how it started. So you were the leader of the gang if you were the toughest. You punch everyone in the face. That's how it is in the neighborhoods. The toughest, the ruthless, the guy who kills at drop of a hat, that's the guy. Nowadays, I'm not saying that's good, but that's how things were made. Now we have weasels who stay behind out there, but they're consider themselves leaders. They're organizers at the most, but they're not leaders. I don't think they have the characteristics, for instance, of courage, which is one of the ancient Greek virtues. Actually, the first one mentioned of the four, right? Temperance, wisdom, all this, and then courage. All these are coming. The three are coming after the courage. Courage is the first one. Moderation, temperance, and wisdom. So without courage, you don't have a leader. You have an organizer, a community organizer. You have a spokesperson, something like that. But hey, let's see what this weasel is saying. He wants to give money to the military and the military-industrial complex. So we know who's who and what's what. Thank you very much. And I'm quoting, if we see Russia wants to do more things in the Baltics, for example, there will be an expectation, indeed anticipation, that we would participate in that. That requires land forces, air as well, and maritime too, he said. Well, I'm okay with that. I mean, I have no doubt that you having the Baltic states with a total population of 5 million people. I'm talking about Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia, 5 million people, half of a Chinese village or half of an Indian village. If they get attacked by the Russians, of course NATO will react. That's how should I put? They have, I was about to say contract agreements. It's clear. But what about Ukraine? You don't have anything with Ukraine. You have the same thing as you have with Russia. You don't have a declaration of war. You don't have anything, an alliance written, signed, agreed upon. So it's not the same thing. Whatever your name is, let's find it, Elwood. All right, let's see what else this guy is saying. Or the senior conservative lawmaker also urged the government to revoke an earlier decision to reduce the size of the country's armed forces by 10,000 troops. What did I tell you? And increase defense spending. What did I tell you? We know who this guy is. In particular, to modernize ground units, at the same time recognizing that UK ground forces are in a dire state. End quote. Who brought them in a dire state, I wonder. And, I'm not against funding a military, but I don't like the military to be in charge or to have anything to say politically. The military is like a gun that sits in a shelf over there and have all the security things attached to it. And if you're attacked, then you can go and grab it and defend yourself, or at least threaten the other person if you feel threatened, and so on, or your family and so on. But That's the military. The military, the gun is not going to tell you who to go to do to whom and what and all that. Just sits over there. Now you can buy a good weapon or you can buy a shitty weapon. Now that's your decision. But the weapon still will be static, will be not moving, just over there. And you grab it when you need it as a family, or if someone attacks you, it's someone threatens you, your life is in danger. Now I'm quoting again here. You have three main components to land warfare. Oh, he's thinking ahead. Look at these guys. That's your tank, your main battle tank, your armored fighting vehicle, and your recon vehicle. And in our case, you have the Challenger 2, you have the Warrior, and you have the Scimitar. I don't know what that is. Probably is the recon vehicle because it's the last one in line. And they are all over 20, 30, or 50 years old without any upgrades. Oh, that's bad. Bad. Elwood said the UK providing huge investments over the past year to develop its maritime capabilities, build aircraft carriers, supply more than fighter jets, but the number of tanks have been greatly reduced from 900 tanks several years ago to 148 now. Well, because your economy is in peril, is bad. That's the problem is, because you take from something and you give to someone else. And if your economy would be great, then you could buy a better gun. If you don't have an income, you don't have a good job and you have a lot of spending, you can't afford buying a good weapon to defend your life. And what do you want? That tells me that you didn't invest over there because you had to divert all that to other services or get loans for those services. And still it's not good. I have an article next that I will discuss with about, 400,000 British citizens getting on strike or something like that. It's going to be after this video. So if you want to find details on that one, just pay attention. So this guy thinks about confronting directly Russia, the Russian Federation. Now, did he think of any, consequences? I don't think he did. These guys all think, for whatever reason, that the Russians will just stay conventional. But that assessment does not stand when you think of how they portray Putin and his quote-unquote clique. They portrayed Putin and the Russians as war criminals, crazies, rapists, mass murderers, war criminals, and all that. So the worst of the worst. So then if they're the worst of the worst, then what would prevent the Russians to use something else if all these guys get involved? I mean, if these guys, the Russians, are just like a loose cannon, pam, shoot wherever, why are you so certain that when you, I would say, escalate all this by getting involved directly, the Russians will say, you know what, I'm not going to use my big guns, I'm going to leave them over here, even though I'm losing, I'm just going to accept defeat. I mean, you portray them as being illogical, criminals, evil people, and all of a sudden you tell me that we can do this because we don't even think about the possibility that those criminals that I portrayed as criminals would not use, nuclear weapons. It's either those guys over there are not the way they portray them, or these guys are just limited, below 86 IQ. Both could be valid in the same time, and many other options as well. And you don't restrict the assessment only with these two options. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I want to see UK directly challenging Russia, because if that happens, as Lebed said, the Colonel Lebed, I think he became a general. He died in a helicopter accident, I think in Siberia, helicopter accident. You know how those are, right? He said that all the UK needs is a missile. That's all, and no more UK. So the same thing is valid, because even more now than before, because UK's land surface did not increase, but the Russian capability to blow more things up increased greatly since Lebed died, whenever he made a statement. So anyway, I don't wish that to happen, obviously, because if that happens, we all gone and people will die. I hope all this ends up yesterday and they get to an agreement, but it's not going to be like that because there's other interest behind all this, virtue signaling and let's help this against that unprovoked evil attack and so on. It's much more, and a lot of interests are making a lot of this, and I think they have no interest in or desire to stop influencing the situation as it is. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.